I get this question relatively frequently. How long does it have to be? One answer to that is you don't want to know. Because if you go into it thinking, oh my God, I'll never be able to write 192 pages or 110 pages or whatever it is, nobody writes a dissertation in one sitting. Dissertations are written in small pieces and in chapters. So you're not sitting down to write a novel or a great work of nonfiction in one sitting. If you think about the traditional dissertation being 5 chapters, it's easy to think of it as chapter 1, maybe 15 to 20 pages, chapter 2, somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 pages, chapter 3, something like 15 pages. Chapter 4 is pretty random depending on what type of study you did and how many tables, charts, etc. are in there, which take up pages but aren't a lot of writing. But think of that as 15 to 30 pages, and your last chapter in the 15 to 20 page range. Well, you're at the 100 to 100, 110, 140 page range for a relatively typical dissertation. Many people kind of cringe when they say they hear a dissertation's 100 pages or less. A lot of schools like to think of more than 100. And I'm talking just about the writing, not about the reference table at the end, which can add another 15 pages. On the other hand, as someone who has reviewed lots of dissertations, I'm going to cringe if I see something over 300 pages. I did once have someone turn in to me a chapter 2, their literature review, and I remember this, 282 pages. And I sent it back indicating that I didn't need everything that had ever been written on the topic, and I wanted him to synthesize the material so that it fit the research question and the research problem. So while the answer is you need enough pages in order to answer your research questions, your problem statement, things like that, you need enough pages in your literature review to tell the story that allows the reader to come to the conclusion, that's really, I see where there's a gap and I see why this study needs to be done. But when someone gives you an exact number of pages, that's really hard. The other issue I've seen when people have a page number in their mind is they write to that as opposed to writing to clarity and succinctness. It can get too wordy, or they can leave things out. Oh, I got my 15 pages. I'm happy. Well, you might have needed 2 more. One chapter that tends to throw people off a lot is chapter 2, the literature review, because I've seen schools that say, yes, it needs to be 40 pages, or between 40 and 60, or 30 and 50 are relatively common. And that's scary to people. But think of chapter 2 as a series of small papers. You're going to write a little bit on a certain topic and a little bit on another topic, and you're going to, at the end, tie them together. But really, how many 3 to 5 page papers have you written in your academic life? Well, you're just going to write a bunch of those and bring them all together for your chapter 2. I will say chapter 4, while it tends to be or can be long, it's also one of the easiest chapters to write because you're just reporting your results, saying, here's what I said I was going to do in chapter 3, and I did it. And here's what I found. So if you're looking for a page number, guesstimate around 120, 125, give or take 15 or so pages on either side. And that's a safe range to think about page-wise. But really, I think you need to get to enough pages to answer everything so your committee's happy, you can get to your defense, finish, graduate, become a doctor, save the world.